What are the key principles of a pawn wedge? Have you ever wondered how a single pawn can change the dynamics of a chess game? One powerful concept is the pawn wedge. Let's break down what a pawn wedge is and why it matters. A pawn wedge occurs when a pawn is pushed deep into the opponent's territory, often reaching the 6th rank. This can happen on squares like f6, g6, or h6 for white, and the corresponding squares for black. First off, a pawn wedge provides extra space in a specific area of the board. This space is usually near the opponent's king. With this extra room, your pieces can move to strong squares behind or around the wedge. This can greatly improve their activity and influence on the game. Another important principle is how a pawn wedge restricts the opponent's pieces. By occupying an advanced square, the pawn can block key squares that the enemy needs for defense. This makes it harder for them to coordinate their pieces effectively. Now let's talk about attacking. A pawn wedge near the enemy king can be a launching point for mating attacks or tactical threats. It disrupts the opponent's pawn structure and defensive setup, creating weaknesses that your pieces can exploit. If you manage to maintain your pawn wedge, it can even transform into a passed pawn. A passed pawn is one that has no opposing pawns blocking its path to promotion. This can be a powerful asset in the endgame, further limiting your opponent's options and increasing your chances of winning. However, creating a pawn wedge requires careful evaluation. It must be supported properly, otherwise it can become a target for your opponent. If it is not well defended, it might hinder your own piece development. The wedge should always contribute positively to your position. You will often find pawn wedges in various openings like the French defense, Khan defense, and King's Indian defense. Understanding how to use and counteract pawn wedges in these structures is essential for your strategic planning. When you achieve a pawn wedge, focus on using it as a base to launch attacks. Target the squares around your opponent's king and support the wedge with your pieces. This helps maintain its strength and prevents it from becoming isolated. Keep an eye on the restricted mobility of your opponent's pieces. This can lead to further positional or material advantages. Lastly, always prepare for potential endgame advantages if your wedge can be turned into a passed pawn. In summary, the pawn wedge is a powerful concept that can significantly impact your game when applied correctly. Understanding its principles can help you gain an edge in both the middle game and endgame phases.